and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. So, Sat means truth, is a Sanskrit root word dhatu, and myth means fake or lie or imagination, that is again a Sanskrit root dhatu. So, Sattology means the science of truth, while mythology means the science of imagination or fake or maybe not be a truth. So, it is a true antonym of mythology. The word mythology was invented to undermine the Vedic histories. And it was invented by mostly Western academics, Portuguese Christian missionaries, and Spanish Christian missionaries to undermine the ancient histories of South America, but more importantly, India, because the literatures were most widely published in the Vedic culture. Now, in today's show, we are talking about Indian Constitution and how Indian Constitution, which was adopted in 1950, was changed in 1979 by political means, and where who follows the Indian Constitution and which class of people follow the Indian Constitution completely, while others they try to make fun of it. So we're going to talk about with a very prominent author, a great friend, and also a writer, columnist in many Indian newspapers. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Arun Anand ji. So it's a great topic you have chosen because many people are not aware of it. So what is in the Indian Constitution that was changed in 1979?
Aditya the I would say, that Hinduness or Hindutva is actually the topic which is there is the bedrock of Indian Constitution. A couple of things. One is that just want to that it was actually broadly changed in 1975, between 1975 to 77, when emergency was internal emergency was imposed in India, and draconian laws were put into place by an authoritarian regime led by the Congress Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So at that time, what they had done, they had introduced the word socialist and secular into the Indian Constitution. If you These were introduced, in the preamble of the Constitution, and the preamble of the Constitution is something basically which courts had already said that it cannot be tampered with. And it was deliberately done it was kind of, under the influence of the left ideology, which was dominating the Congress at that time and which continues to dominate the Congress. And if you look at, it's very interesting thing that if you look at the first handwritten copy of the Indian Constitution, so the pictures of all the Indian Hindu gods you will find on these, and these were, like on the you have pictures of Shri Ram, you have pictures of, Krishna, you have pictures of Mahabharat, you have pictures of Gautam Buddha. So all these pictures were there. It was a handwritten copy which was signed by every member of the Constituent Assembly. And this was the first copy of the Constitution. And for our viewers, I will share this information. I think I had downloaded the PDF file of this from a website called Rare Books Society of India.org. So if you want to look at the original copy of the Indian Constitution, you can download it from there. So I think this is the biggest thing that it was, you have pictures of all the Hindu gods there, and the members of the Constituent Assembly, everybody had signed that copy. So that was the soul of the Indian Constitution. And see the irony that in the independent India, from 49 till 2019, the Hindus had to fight for getting, the legal sanction to build a Ram temple at Ayodhya. And this is the same Shri Ram or Lord Ram, whose picture You find, as soon as you open the first constitution, first page of the Constitution of India. So this is the irony, and this is how it has been tampered.
Some people are asking why I'm smiling or why I'm laughing right now. So if you study the world, all the countries of the world, and even small countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, all these countries have stood up to tyrants in a big way. Other than Philippines in Southeast Asia, all other countries have retained their culture, including Indonesia to some extent. When 3 years back in 2017, they restarted Paramamam Temple in Bali, which is sponsored by the Indonesian government as part of their cultural heritage, which is connected to Ayodhya, Ramayana. So, but uh, like Thailand is celebrating that with Ganesha on their notes and Sri Ram 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the king is also called a representative of Sri Ram. His name is not Sri Ram, but representative of Ram 4, and that's the official title given. Only India is a country where where the faith is respected all over the world. And there was a statistics that 50 million Americans have gone to yoga or follow yoga. But and this is a rough statistics because the real statistics are not shown because of big church lobbies in the US politics. But India is where the culture is not publicly acknowledged at any public forum because of, I have no idea what is the fear, because the people are changing. People have changed. If the politicians don't change and academics don't change, then they're going to be irrelevant. They will be questioned in their classes also. That because more and more people are aware of the colonial conspiracy of not respecting the local culture. Like you just took an example of constitution. So in what ways? One thing you said, the constitution had picture of Sri Ram, and in everywhere I have seen that constitution. But what is the fear actually? That not acknowledging. What is that fear?
I think, the one is, as you rightly pointed out, that the situation has changed in India. So for our viewers, those who are not, very well versed, of course, with the micro level politics in India. So there are two major opposition leaders right now who govern two major provinces. One is the capital of the country, Delhi. It is governed by a gentleman called Arvind Kejriwal, and who used to be the ultra left guy, and he used to support who used to support the urban Maoist ideology. And today itself, he has come out with a full page advertisement in all the major newspapers that we would like to uh, convert Delhi into a Ram Rajya, basically, a model state as Lord Ram had ruled. And he had also announced a special package that the senior citizens in Delhi, they would be taken free of cost to Ayodhya for the devotees, those who want to go and who are above 60 years of age. So they will be taken, they will be given basically, money to travel to Ayodhya. Similarly, Mamta Banerjee, again a very an individual who had not allowed, the Durga Puja processions, the processions of Hindus worshipping Durga, goddess Durga. So she had not allowed that because she wanted to allow certain Muslim processions. And today, when she is campaigning now, the elections are happening in the province of West Bengal in India. So now she is starting her meetings with, the by reciting and chanting about, various goddesses. We call it the Chandi part, goddess Chandi. So she is glorifying them. So this is how, and then you have another major politician, Priyanka Gandhi from Congress. So she has been visiting, all the temples, and but this is all basically double speak. So because they understand that now the majority of the country and the majority of the Hindus, so they don't want to take things lying down, and they want to elect people who are unapologetic about their Hindu identity, which BJP has done, and which the BJP leaders, that has been their stand since the party was formed, and whether they were winning or losing. So this is the way this wind is blowing. But to answer your question, see, what has happened is that, and I think there are a lot of university students and obviously people who are associated with the universities and academic positions are here. Throughout the world, what I have observed, the left ideology dominates the university campuses, especially the academicians, the academic circles, and also the media. So a discourse has been created that if you are going to talk in favor of Hinduism or Hinduness or Hindutva, and if you are going to take pride over your glorious past and want to build on that, then it means that you are basically communal, you are racial, you are not progressive, you are not modern, you are regressive. So this discourse has been created. So people are generally, they don't want to be those who don't want to be branded like this. And as I said, the university campuses, the media houses, everything is dominated by the left, not only in India, but across the world, especially in India. So, people don't want to come out openly and accept that they are proud of their Hindu identity because that hurts them professionally. And many of them, they don't want to be, branded as regressive. And because the discourse is largely controlled by the left, despite having, despite being very low in numbers, so they are able to, set the discourse. So this is the uh, situation. So that's why I think this is the thing.
Now, throughout the world, we have seen that the governments particularly engage in creating institutions that respect the ancient history of the land all over the world. And I was getting a rough estimate of approximately 200 to 300,000 temples ignored in India, ignored, and uh, and they are practically not seen, like they never come on the list of ASI. And these are all ancient temples, and and it is told that generally that there is no money. But the money part is not expected from India, because India is the, if you look at the PPP, India is the third largest economy, purchasing power parity on that basis today. And but in nominal GDP, it may not be it may be much lesser, because nominal is actual dollar terms. But the dollar, what the dollar can buy, it is a much bigger number. So with that being said, when Indians say that they don't have money to maintain their own cultural, that that just means apathy. And of the majority of the people of India. And it is very surprising. There are a lot of Vietnamese Americans, there are a lot of Indonesian Americans who still retain deep respect for India, because their culture of their parents, ancestors came from India. They all have deep respect. Even South Koreans, they regularly visit Kerala, because that's the home of Taekwondo. And they all this. If you go to South Korean Taekwondo schools and you talk to their instructors who come from Korea, they'll say Indoi Dojo, means respecting India as the home of their culture. Japanese do that regularly when they come to Bodh Gaya. But it's just that the Indians are being taught to disrespect it, which is being shown. And so the world is trying to become like an Indian, but the Indians themselves try to become something else, which naturally they are not. So what is the systematic, what has happened in the system itself, which takes people away from claiming their own heritage as confidently in the world?
Aditya, you are right, but to a large extent, it's. I'm very positive this situation is changing dramatically now, and especially the younger generation. Uh, See, what had happened, as I told you, that owning up your own heritage was seen as regressive, was dubbed as regressive. But now, as you know, there is an old saying which goes, so probably Indians have realized now, that if you're not a communist before 21, you don't have a heart. If you are a communist after 21, you don't have a mind, or you don't have a brain. So we have realized, the hollowness of the left ideology. And in the field of art and culture, all the institutions were dominated by them. If you And they had become, the voice of India in the global forums. So that's why this message had gone that Indians are not proud of their heritage. But if you go down to the grassroots level, Indians are very much proud of their own heritage. The number of Ramlilas which are held every year, they have been increasing. The number of, the way Navratras or different Hindu festivals are celebrated. So that has changed. The younger generation celebrates it a lot, and there are so many people who are, writing. Like in India, there is a specific genre of writing which has emerged in the fiction era, which is the ancient Indian history or our past. So whether it is Mahabharata, it is Ramayana, it is Puranas. So there are a lot of, young writers who are writing in English on these novels. uh, Many of you must have read Amish, who kind of was a trailblazer, who wrote, a trilogy on Shiva. So Lord Shiva. So that thing is changing, but in the global forums, people who represent us, so they are the ones basically who are driven by largely the left ideology. For example, I'll give you an example that in the US, there are a couple of writers from India who write columns for Washington Post or New York Times or Wall Street journals. So there are people like, Rana Ayub, there are people like Barkha Dutt, who do not actually truly represent the Indian point of view, but they've been established by the West as, the face of the Indian, what India thinks, which is absolutely untrue. These are the people who are out of their jobs in India, and now they've been picked up by the West. And why? Because they are India bashers. They degrade their own country, they degrade their own culture, and that is what sells in the West. So this is how, the whole system. There are enough number of, writers in India. There are enough number of people in India who truly represent, the Indian cultural heritage, but they are not given any space in the international forums. They are not given any space in on global platforms. And to give you an example how this whole system works, so leave apart Indians. Any foreigner now who is talking about anybody who's not an Indian citizen or who has a foreign origin, if they are talking about positively about Indian cultural heritage, even they are getting, targeted. I'll give you two examples. One is from India. Recently, all of you have must seen that controversy where Rashmi Samant, a girl from Maharashtra, a brilliant student, she was the first, elected as the first women president of Oxford Students Union, and just because she had posted certain things which were in which talked she took pride in being a Hindu and being having a Hindu heritage. So she was trolled and she was forced to resign from that post. This is, we are talking about Oxford, which is considered to be the cradle of, liberalism. The second example is there is a French journalist whose name is Francois Gauthier. Francois Gauthier is an Indophile. He has been living in India for the last 40 years, and his wife is, I think, is also Indian. So anyway, so Francois Gauthier, so he writes for leading publications in France, and he has been an Indophile, and he has been speaking continuously in favor of, the Hindu culture and heritage. And yesterday, his account was deleted by Twitter. So why? Because he talked, very positively about Hindu culture and heritage. So this is, how, and you recently see the onslaught when whether it is Netflix, whether it is Amazon Prime, the OTT platforms. So they're all airing basically, those movies or when they talk about India, where Indian, culture is degraded, Indian gods and goddesses are, you know, uh, shown in very poor light. They are made not only fun of, it's basically, it's kind of being abusive about them. And so this is how this whole system is working, which and all these things represent the viewpoint of a certain very minuscule section of Indian society. The most of the Indian society, so they are really proud of their cultural heritage. I'll give you another example. Recently, a campaign was launched to collect, uh, contributions for the construction of Ram Temple at Ayodhya. So, in a span of, it started on January 15th, it finished on February 27th. In a span of only 42 days. And when an average Indian is trying to recover from the onslaught of COVID-19, because the economy had really gone to had got derailed, and everybody has been affected in the world. Even after that, in 1 month, 2,500 crore rupees, so which is what you call 200, I think, what, 250 million or something like that, or you can say 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion Indian rupees were collected. So this was the reflection of what India thinks about its cultural heritage, because the Ram temple which is being constructed at Ayodhya, the birthplace of Lord Ram, is considered to be one of the biggest cultural symbols for our society. It is not. It has got nothing to do with religion.
The main problem, because I work in these academic circles a lot, and I'm part of these university systems a lot, where sometimes my views are not respected because I'm a traditionalist. So for me, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Ved is truth, and I try to prove it archaeologically. And there are many people like me. I would say millions of people like me who believe such way. But our views are considered dogmatic, or our views are considered, where we are the scientific people. We are saying, prove us wrong. Okay, I gave you 20 archaeological proofs, 20 astronomical proofs, and 30 proofs from the text itself. But there is a propaganda that the West, since 1800s or early 1700s, when they tried to colonize India, they were never able to prove their own culture as a fact. The entire Greek culture, the Roman culture, even communism, and even political ideologies like capitalism and communism is also political ideology. And also, many of these faiths are also coming deeply mixed up with politicals and theologies. Theologies are mostly mythologies they have created, which don't exist. They themselves don't believe in it. Like the most of the Greek historians, if you talk to them, they will not believe in what their own history to a large extent. Now, when they're encountered with a proof, then instead of countering it, they just label it as a as a Hindutva, just reject it. Just like if the Israelis, they produce a history that their culture was there for a long time, which everybody knows, they reject it as Zionism. So any of the native cultures, if they try to prove their own worth, these institutions, they reject them. So the leftism is actually promoted by the Western theological, either Middle Eastern theological societies or Western theological societies. So that is what it is, and they have permeated the entire academic systems. Now they built it to oppose the Vedic culture, but they are themselves now threatened. Now they cannot also speak in their own societies. So I think this is the whole ecosystem which is there, and which can only be challenged with the help of a government. At the like I was proposing somebody that if the Indian government passes a law or an instruction to their education system that these universities don't teach the right history, and then they pass a ban so that no Indian student goes to those universities, all of them will come into line. Do you think that proactiveness can work with the Indian government?
Uh, I think eh, what you have said. I think it's uh, in India there is the issue is that of course it should be done. Why not? And in principle, I agree with you. But on ground, the problem with the execution is that education is a state subject, and so different states have different universities. Of course, the Indian government can do it in the central universities which are being run by the federal government or central government. But I think a consensus has to be built on that, and largely, see, Aditya my viewpoint is that the permanent changes in the society or the transformation of the society beyond a point cannot be brought out by any government. Government is just a subset of the society. Ultimately, we have to create awareness in the society. Once they stop, you know, once they stop, going to these universities, once they stop, going to such institutions. So these universities or these institutions, so they will automatically, get shut down. So the and that's what some of the organizations they have been trying to create awareness. Organizations like RSS in India, but it's a long drawn process. But in the history of countries, decades do not matter. Sometimes centuries also do not matter. So, and especially in a country of 1.3, 1.4 billion people, which has been kind of uh, taken for a ride for almost 1,000 years. So I think even if it takes 50, 60 years or 70 years, probably it may not happen absolutely in our lifetimes. But yes, I think the good thing is that a process has begun. The alternatives are available. For example, there are a lot of universities in India which are now teaching the right kind of curriculum. There are a lot of schools in India, like Vidya Bharati is an organization which runs about 30,000 schools, and in which around 4 million children study. So, and but these are all society driven initiatives, so that is the only way it can become sustainable. Because say today, if the BJP government takes an initiative and does something like that, so 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, another political party comes and it has a different viewpoint. So the institutional changes have to come from the grassroots level. The pressure has to be created from the grassroots level, and the awareness is very crucial. And I think that this is happening. I just want to share some information with our viewers also, that India has revived the Gurukul system in a big way. There is an organization called Bharatiya Shikshan Mandal which has been working, and whole lot of Gurukuls have opened. In fact, 2 years ago there was a World Gurukul uh, conference. Gurukul is, those who do not know, is a traditional Indian way of imparting knowledge. And the core of the Gurukul system is that the neither the government not the market or the commercial or the nor the commercial considerations. None of these should basically drive an educational institution or help it sustain. It is the community basically which should help sustain these institutions. So that's a positive thing which has happened. And there are some gurukuls in which billionaires and millionaires of India and the who's who, they are making a beeline to get their children admitted there. I happen to, if any of you want, in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, there is one such Gurukul. So I have visited there and I have seen it firsthand. It's amazing. And so these and their children have broken, a number of records in International Mathematics Olympiad by using the Vedic mathematics technique. So all these are very positive developments which are happening, and I think ultimately it is the society which has to transform itself, and that process has begun in India. It is now picking up pace, and uh, my belief is that it is an irreversible process.
Points you made, and I think this is a step in the positive direction. See, the thing is, I give an example. Recently, Vietnam, and Vietnam is a small country in the Southeast Asia, and they challenged an American university history curriculum. The government challenged. They said it is not in line with the Vietnam's official historical records. And it was a very small incident. In 1975, between 69 and 75, when the Vietnam War was going on, the North Vietnam was supported by the Chinese and Soviet Union and other countries, and the South Vietnam was obviously supported by the US forces. And we all know what happened in the war. A small account of a war was not being taught in the American university. And this was a major American university where the Vietnam challenged it and changed it. And they actually advised it was a big state issue and it was never published in the media actually, where Vietnam advised the students to not go to that university because it is against Vietnam. And no, it was not a political move, it was a purely education move. They wanted American universities to teach what the government felt it right as an educational curriculum according to the will of the people. Now, if that step happens, like that, there is a great new education policy of India. So, if we standardize the Indian history according to the local things, like not the invaders' history. So, Vietnam completely deleted the invaders' history. And they said they talked only about the freedom fighters of Vietnam, people who fought against the invading forces. Now, when that happened, all the universities had to change the curriculum. It was done. And there is no problem after that. And it happened 10 years back. And till now, nobody has made a change. See, try to understand that the Western academic institutions are part of the state policy. So Indians, they think that there is secularism, there is complete. No, it's not like that. It is completely part of the state policy, and that is being used to create opposition in the country for which they're teaching. Now, American education system about the Indian history is extremely negative, and it's a very leftist viewpoint. So when the Indian universities want to get funds or tie up with an American university, they have to make their course in sync with the Western university. Otherwise, they cannot teach, they cannot have a tie up. But if the Indian university says, if you do not have these elements, or the Indian education policy says you cannot have these elements, then the American university is going to change. And then the professors like Trushke and so many people, Christian pastors who are teaching Hindu studies. Can you imagine that? Christian pastors who don't believe in Hindus and they're teaching Hinduism. Now, naturally, they're going to teach something else. And it comes into India. And then the media organizations, all media organizations, they gain their credibility through academic tie-ups, all of them, including Twitter. Twitter is a media organization. Don't think of it as a social media company. They are not here to promote social independence. They are here to promote a leftist ideology. And Jack Dorsey, we all know from where he came. So, so we cannot blame them. We have to blame the system. And I gave you one example of Vietnam. Second example is Singapore. Singapore, we all know it was a British territory, and before that, it was a Malaysian territory. And Singapore locally has removed all aspects of Malaysian history, which is doubtful, which is questionable also to some extent. But that's what they're demanding American universities to teach, and that's what they're being taught. Only in the case of India, the academic freedom is so high, and maybe there's a resilience of Indian philosophy. So there is somewhere or the other, we have to dictate to them, this is what you teach, and that is what is considered authentic. What do you have to say? And this is what Congress did for a long time. The first education minister had no faith in the local Hindu culture, and this has been being done regularly over the past so many decades. And I am sure that if anytime the government changes, they're going to implement this again in a big way. So what do you have to say on this? This is the way curriculums are changed.
I think you have hit the nail, and that's a fact. Basically, see, the developing worlds have this challenge that because the research and the grants and everything, and even the recognition or the endorsements, so all these lie with the West, and they have a specific viewpoint which they want to peddle because. Uh, and you rightly said that now you look at an academic like went to Niger, she is writing, ridiculous stuff that she is writing that, in Ramayana, so about incestuous relationships. So that's and the more brazen you are, the more academically sound you are considered. And on the see, there is very interesting thing. On one hand, you have people like Wendy Donizer and the number of other these things. So, and on the other hand, you have people like David Frawley or Francois Gauthier, the example which I just gave. So, even when it comes to their own people, they have this double standards, and so they treat them basically, differently. So that's the irony of the situation also, one, and that also shows basically, that how intellectually dishonest the Western academic institutions have become. And the example I gave you about the Oxford student union. See, the problem in India is that because of the Nehruvian uh, ideology and philosophy, the left has got so deeply entrenched into the institutional mechanism in India that even after 7 years of Modi government, the government itself is struggling against them. The kind of discourses which are being peddled through university campuses, led by these, I won't say even left, the radical left. So that's a kind of and all these agitations which you are witnessing, whether it is a farmers agitation or whether it was the anti citizenship amendment act agitation, so all these are driven by that same set of people, and all of them basically are trying to utilize the university campuses. But I also believe that university campuses are now the last bastion of the left which have been left in India. So electorally they have been wiped out. As far as the and it's just a matter of time, and that's why there is such a desperate fight, intellectual fight also, which often turns into the physical fight also. It's going on. I think it's just a matter of time before they are pushed out from there also into an oblivion. However, we also have a issue, Aditya ji, which is of our own undoing actually. See, we have we still till this new education policy came uh, some time back, we actually never had a vision for of education in India. We were looking at education only from a Western framework or a colonial framework or a left driven framework, and there was not much difference between these three. So this is for the first time that we have got a new education policy which has a vision of how to teach Indians from an Indian perspective and in an Indian context. And the good thing is that in this budget which has just gone, the government has, I think, proposed about uh, 1.5 billion rupees, Indian rupees, they have kept for creating a fund on for research, which will work on the research methodologies, developing new research methodologies, which are basically indigenous. We don't need to adopt those research methodologies. So there is an effort which has started, but it's a still very long way to go. And when the political establishment changes, so then of course it will be a setback, because earlier also the BJP led NDA government, when they had come in power in 1990s under Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they had initiated the same thing. It was reversed, much rather more than reversed, over the next 10 years during the UPA government. So somehow I think the challenge for us is that we have to take education out of the realm of the Indian politics, and the society and the communities have to own it up. And our situation is different because of our colonial past. So, and the colonial hangover which our academicians had. I think India, unlike other countries, India has the challenge that we need our communities to build up the educational institutions rather than depending on the government. Because if it will depend on the government, when the governments will change, the educational institutions, the direction will change also. So it has to be community driven, and I think India has the capability of doing that, because that there are so many social organizations which have been running good educational institutions, like Swami Ramakrishna Mission. It runs very good educational nationalistic institutions. As I said, Vidya Bharati is there, Bharati Shikshan Mandal is there. So we will have to work on basically that way. Until then, we'll have to bear the brunt of the West.
I'll give you
And
another example of a country called Poland, very
yeah,
small country, Eastern European country, and they are very proud of whatever culture they follow, right or wrong. See, they understand the brazenness of the left. Left doesn't think what is right or wrong. Left thinks what needs to be done, and they do it. So if when they come to power, they reverse everything very quickly because their entire economics is based on that kind of institution. Because the academics is something that's how they control the minds of the intelligent people, and it is directly connected to their wealth directly. So when the good people are in power or the majority are in power, it is for them to take the courage and do the right thing at a very large level that cannot be reversed in future. And so Poland, I'll tell you the Polish history, and they're very proud people. I have a lot of Polish friends, and many of the Polish Americans are watching right now. And one of the questions for them is because they love India, they love the Hindu culture, and that's why the Bollywood movies, not all the movies, the kind of movies that have become popular in Poland are Bahubali, like which was a purely Indian narrative. Now they love that kind of thing, and so it is the work of when you are in power, make the changes so that the left loses the economic benefits. And Indian government is very popular today because we also need support as a practicing yoga. We need yoga gets banned in many universities, and I can tell you my example that I was told that you cannot teach meditation in this university. Now meditation has nothing to do with religion in any way, but they connect everything. They are also very smart. They connect everything to the Vedic culture, and they want to bring the value of Bhagavad Gita down. Now if the Indian government makes a change and says, okay, this is not considered good according to us, and we don't recognize you, we will not send our children to you because we don't want our children to become indoctrinated in an ideology which is destructive for the rest of the mankind. That's a good logic to put it. And then the American university will have to sit down and listen. I'm telling you, if Indian students don't go to American universities, they'll have no revenues. So you may be thinking that you're getting education from there. No, you're getting a propaganda. And the Americans themselves are tired of their propaganda. You ask any American family, would like to send their children to Berkeley? They'll say no, it's destructive. They would rather get the child homeschooled and go to a private university and then get it done. That's why you have so many private universities, and we have a lot of students today from a great local private university today, USD, and they love it because they are retaining their own culture. The point is whether the culture is right or wrong. That I have nobody to comment on it, but at least they are trying to bring their own narrative. Now, when it comes to the ancient, and our channel is Sattology, it's all about Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Vedic culture. Now, in this channel, we are so forcefully trying to defend our Sanatan Dharma culture. And in USA, we need that support from the Indian education policy. When the Indian says, okay, maybe Bhagavad Gita was not right, now Americans will think if the Indians don't believe in it, what to speak of us? Why they are selling us something they themselves don't believe in? Okay, then we have to separate that. We have to say the entire government is leftist and we are the traditionalist. So we have to disconnect from that narrative because the government is not supporting it. So I think the problem being India has to realize that it's a powerful country. It has large population, 1.3 billion people, and it has to protect the faith of 1 billion, 1.2 billion Hindus globally, because that's the only land they have. So your initial point that the constitution is Hindutva, bedrock of the constitution, is correct. but it has to be shown in the practice in the academic world, because academics and economics are tied together completely. What do you have to say on that, sir?
I agree with you absolutely. I think that is what needs to be done. But as I said, that it's a long haul. The efforts are begun, and yes, I think the government needs to take a tougher stand. But uh, certain good things have happened, like the Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, which used to be the hotbed of the left. This thing. So there are a lot of things which have changed there. So also in certain universities, but yes, I think people like you and the initiatives which are being done like this, so they must be supported openly, and they must be given all kind of support by the uh, not only the Indian government but by the Indian society also. And I think that's basically because, and you're absolutely right, if we ourselves are not confident about basically what we are trying to convey, or what preach is the wrong word, but we want to share, if we are not confident about it, then why would the rest of the world basically be listen to us? So we need to set our own house in order, I think, before the Hindu community needs to set its own house in order, and also the government. However, certain good things have happened. The indications are there, but then the Indian bureaucracy, because the Indian civil services system is also such that all the I have had the opportunity to take the civil services examination during the college time, and I had reached at up to the interview level, but couldn't make it. And now I realize why I couldn't make it, because
It's an
I was
ecosystem,
always having, yeah, I was somebody who wouldn't probably fit into the system.
right?
And so I'm not I have no regrets. I think it was basically bureaucracy's loss and journalism's gain. So, but having said that, still the Indian civil services structure is totally, see, that is the bane of the that is the bane, that is the root cause of the problem, because ultimately everything is driven by bureaucracy. See, politicians basically come and go. Bureaucracy is the biggest and the most continuously working institution. And Indian civil services structure is absolutely basically left oriented and colon. It's a still that iron framework which the colonial power had, or the Britain had basically created. So many such moves, most of these moves are scuttled by many bureaucrats, and but gradually there is some change in bureaucracy also. But I think we need to have fundamental. If you ask me, Adityaji, if we really want to do it, and if we really want to do it properly and in a sustained manner, what India needs, the first thing which we require is administrative reforms. We need to scrap this Indian civil services system, and we need to put together and all together this thing where if you want to become a civil servant, you need to know Vedic maths. Where if you want to become a civil servant, you need to know Bhagavad Gita. You need to know your Ramayana. You need to know your Mahabharata. You need to know your Vedas. Then you see when these bureaucrats come, how they are going to drive the policy. Right now, if you want to become a civil servant, you need to know Marx. If you want to become a civil servant, you need to know Wendy Doniger. If you want to become a civil servant, you need to know all that anti-Indian basically. So this is a text. So you read Irfan Habibs, you read Bipin Chandras, you need all those left historians, the Romila Thapars, which I call the chief distortionists of India. So they, when you are reading
Mythologist.
that, yeah, so when you are reading that, so of course when you will come with that, that is a frame of mind basically, and then it's a vicious circle. So we need to basically break that circle, I think.
See, the traditionalists have always maintained their, they try to stick to the text and the purpose and the mood of the text. Even a Bhagavad Gita can be translated in a very vicious way, and that can become the distortion, because the translations always distort. Uh, but there are traditionalists like the parampara system of Adi Sankaracharya, the parampara system of Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. It's their religious duty to protect the essence of when Krishna was speaking, what was he trying to convey. But many Bhagavad Gita translations, see, I always say milk being touched by a poison becomes poisonous, even though it may be looked like a milk, but it may not be nutritious to you. So Bhavita is like that milk. But if somebody tries to distort it, like the names you said, I don't even want to popularize them on my channel. So, they distort the entire
I'll
meaning.
give, I just want to make a point. You have raised a very valid point in terms of translation. I'll just give you a very small example. Max Muller, which is considered to be, and unfortunately, we have a road also on his name in the heart of the capital.
Exactly.
Uh, and then you have a Max Muller Bhavan. So Max Muller, which is considered to be the guy who brought Vedas to the West by translating them. And what did he do? He writes. There is a book which is now out in the market. It has letters which he had written to his wife, and in which he specifically mentions the essence of the letter is that Britishers had hired me, they paid me to learn Sanskrit, and they paid me to translate basically these Vedas. And I am ensuring that I might not be there, but the Hindus will be absolutely cut off basically from that original source of knowledge and that root basically that core which has kept them alive and which has ensured that this civilization keeps on growing. So I'm translating it in such a manner. So this is what basically Max Muller did, and he specifically confesses this to his wife. So this is as you rightly said, and if you read Max Muller's translation of Vedas, which most of the West has read probably, so you have, it's as you said that the poison has touched the milk, so it might look, the text of Vedas, but it is not.
It is not. See, you cannot see. The point is, the West will ask you why you have not changed your 70 years of independence, but they don't realize that they have not made you change with economics, with money. So they have tried to retain. And why will I, if I've changed your thought process to make you like me, and that's why I'm getting the advantage, why will I ever change it? Because I'm getting all the advantage from that. So the onus is not on them. The onus is on the Indian government. And believe me, I'll tell you one thing: most of the American Hindus or the Hindus which are in the West, in any country, are not coming because of the official Indian version of Hinduism. They are coming because of traditions. Ramanujacharya, ISKCON, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. These are private individuals never supported by the government of India. And Sadhguru, not supported by the government of India. And Shri Ravi Shankar, all these are private people. So the point is, Indian government or the officials have to realize that tourism is not increasing in India because of their efforts. Shining India or Incredible India, nothing is happening. There are much better places than Incredible India. I mean, materially. But these people want to come to Varanasi. May not be the cleanest city on the world, but they want to come there because of these traditions. Kumbh Mela attracts the maximum number of Western origin India lovers. So if the Indian government thinks that by propagating their version or leftist version, these people are coming, because they were coming even in the Congress rule. For them, it didn't matter whether it's a Congress or BJP, nothing. So Indian traditions have done a great service to the Indian tradition, Indian culture. So Indians have to just open their eyes, because I know these Americans, they don't want to go to Delhi or Bombay. They want to go to Varanasi. They want to go to Jagannath Puri. They want to go to Rameshwaram, because their faith is built up by the traditions of India. And in the new education policy, there is nowhere the traditions of India. I saw the entire text and I saw the people also. There's nowhere tradition. There is no Rama Shri Sampradaya. There is no Adi Sankaracharya's original texts. There is no, Madhvacharya's texts. There is no, so, then who is the culture of India? Adi Sankaracharya, born in Kerala, opened the first peat in Gilgit, Baltistan. It is in Gilgit, which is a foreign country, occupied by the foreign country. Now, where is that place? So these are the people who have people follow. And there are a lot of distorters, like you just said, very good word you use, distortionists. They are the agents of the West. Their job is to come. They're paid Rutgers University, this professor, I don't even want to take her name, all of you know. She is paid by the university, and it's a private university, but she's paid by the system. And somebody is keeping her job despite so much opposition. Why? So we have to understand this is a Western state machinery supporting it, but there is no Indian state machinery supporting our efforts. So one last point, and then after we end, and it's a great conversation, great conversation.
I agree with you on this thing. I think, some efforts have begun, but I think much more needs to be done. Of course, it has to be done at the government level also, and there's a lot of improvement which is required. But I am hopeful in the sense, at least for a change, that essence has, and then um, but I agree with you, and I think we need to, overhaul the complete decision making system as far as the education and the art and culture and, all these things are concerned. And yes, probably, we need much more focus and with greater force uh, on this thing. And I'm hopeful that uh, because this government, the good thing is it listens if there are any changes which need to be made. So people who matter, generally, like you said, whether it is Sadhguru or Shri Ravi Shankar. So these are the people, when now they have a line of communication with the government, and the government listens to them. So if something needs to be done or this thing, so I think it will take some, but as I said, the bureaucracy is one of the biggest stumbling blocks. It is a bureaucracy. See, I worked with a cabinet minister for 2 years as his media advisor. So I have a first hand experience that how they try to block everything because the mindset is such. But that does not absolve the government from its responsibility. It has to take it up. But I'm hopeful and I'm quite optimistic that gradually, things have started changing and it's an irreversible process and it's going to pick up the pace.
Indian culture is already going to be popular with or without the government. We have in a Sanatan Dharma has survived without the government also, and so many people. It has survived in countries like USA for such a long time. It's going to grow, but the West is going to reject everyone who doesn't follow their line of thought, like Francois Gautre, and these people will never be accepted. The reason is not because of their work, it's because the state machinery is driving the diplomacy through them. India has to understand it. The academics drive the diplomacy. So so tomorrow if the America.
I just want to add this thing here, Aditya ji. I think a good thing is going to happen because we are going to celebrate the Prime Minister Narendra Modi today launched the celebration of 75 years of India's independence. It falls next year, but there will be 2 year celebration. And I believe basically, because the way today he was speaking, for the first time you heard names like, Lachit Barphukan, the unsung heroes, basically, who represented the true culture of India. So I believe that in these 2 years, we are going to see basically significant change. And on the diplomatic front also, India is going to give a big push. That is the sense which I get.
No, we all have faith in that. We don't have to. We have no question that the intentions are very good intentions. It's the first time ever India has that intentions. But understand there is the ecosystem of CNN, the ecosystem of most of the American universities, and the ecosystem sponsored by the European capital. I call it European capital, London, and it is going to push because they have not, you know they are not colonial powers, but colonialism is their brain. Because and it all ties down to economics, because if you control the people, you sell them their products. It's all about that. So somewhere Indian government has to see that how an academic narrative drives the economic policies. This is all. They don't care about anything else. It's all about dhan sanchay, collecting wealth. It's all about that. So thank you so much, Arun Anandji. It's always a pleasure. You're a writer, thinker, and so so when two writers talk, it's a different level of conversation. So we all have much deeper conversation here.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional interviewer in any way. So thank you for your time, and thank you
Thank
for
you
all the
for
viewers who watch it live.
having me here, and it's always been a pleasure and a privilege to be here. And also, thank you to all the viewers for their patience. And if I have erred somewhere, this thing factually or this thing, so please do through Aditya ji, you can basically let me know. And always looking forward to the critiques and the feedback.
Yeah. So this video will be on YouTube shortly. So do comment over there, and I'll send the link to Arun Anand ji. He'll answer directly on the YouTube comments over there if you have any questions. Okay. Thank you and namaskar.